Welcome back to another episode of the Watchman's Journal, where each week our goal is to connect the dots between biblical wisdom, current events and trends, and contemporary prophetic insight. And I'm honored today to be joined again by Communications Director here at MorningStar, A.T. Snoots. He also has a really rich background in the prophetic movement and in the body of Christ. And this is our second episode, A.T., talking about artificial intelligence, AI. And in our first episode in this series, we talked about how many believers are slow to adopt new technologies or may even have an irrational fear. With AI, I think there are legitimate concerns about this new technology. In the same way, I think that when the nuclear bomb was invented, there were some serious concerns.
Sure.
They weren't quite sure what was going to happen when they detonated that first nuclear bomb. There were some that said, we might erase reality.
Exactly.
We might open up a wormhole that, or a black hole that just sucks in the whole earth. And so with AI, there's legitimate, studious, academic, researched concerns, and there's irrational concerns. And so what I want to do first is try to define what AI is and what the different levels of AI are, so then we can kind of navigate a healthy perspective as believers on AI. So first, I want to give the AI definition for what AI is. So I asked an AI bot, what is AI? And this is what the AI bot wrote. AI is the ability of a computer system to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as learning, problem solving, and decision making. Which is basically saying AI is a brain. And when I think about technology, I think of all technology. You know, Scripture tells us there's nothing new under the sun.
That's right.
So whether it be the first camera, whether it be a video camera on our phone, they're all kind of extensions of the human eye. The microscope, the telescope, microphones are extensions of the human ear. You know, so you can think of all technology in some way is a tool that's expanding our capability as humans. Is it more dangerous because it's replicating or mimicking a brain? So let's talk about the three levels of AI. And I think these are important because you can have two people talking about AI and they're not talking about the same thing.
That's right.
So I want to talk about these levels so that we're giving viewers tools to talk about this in a smart way. So the first level of AI is what's called artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI. This is the most common type used today. It's used for things like Siri, Alexa, self-driving cars. And so this is a type of AI that's given really clear boundaries and limits, and it has a really clear purpose in the workplace or in ministry. Mm-hmm. So for example, one of the things I love to do, and many people might not know, this is kind of a side hobby / side hustle, is I love to do graphic design. Many of the banners you'll see on our social media or whatnot, I've designed, or my book covers, I like to design those. Because I have an AI tool with clear boundaries on my design software, I often will use AI not to create the image, but to bring in an element of the image that's not there, that in my prophetic vision for what that book cover should look like, I want to have there.
There you go.
So I will use AI as a tool to create the image that's in my heart that the Lord put there. So in that case, with this first level of AI, artificial narrow intelligence, I think this can be a great tool for anyone called to ministry in which marketing is part of our good stewardship of the kingdom. It helps us with design, it helps us with video, helps us with sound. And, with Rick and his amazing books, he's written over 50 books, I understand that, you've used some version of artificial narrow intelligence to do something really exciting with Rick's books. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's been kind of fun. We look at Rick's projects because there's such a worldwide interest in some of the books that he's released. And so we look at how can we get this in other languages and other formats. What do we do, just like you would with the scriptures, what do we do to get the word out, to make it louder, to make it clearer, to make it reach places that we couldn't reach otherwise? And so one of the things that we discovered over the last year is we're able to take, using AI, we're able to take Rick's voice. And of course, we're already using, just let me back up for a second. We're already using AI to help us with editing, not with writing, not with content generation. I discourage that, as the director of communications. We don't want any of our content generated, in a book or an article by AI like a lot of people are doing nowadays and getting up on Sunday and teaching a sermon from AI. Whether it's good or not, that's not my point. But we are discouraging that. We're using it more for the expression. It's our tools. So one of the things that we're doing, other than using it for editing articles and things like that, and using it for spell check, grammar check, is we started playing around with the voice, and we found out there's an AI that can take your voice, you'll record your own voice, it'll tell you certain things to say, and after having enough information, I think it might have been around 4 hours worth of information to really get it to understand the way you say and you emphasize and your voice inflections, certain things that you're reading or actually saying. But we took this tool and we fed Rick's book, The Final Quest, into it. So let me just make that clear. We took his voice first from videos where he's already spoken or audio files that we have. And then we finally had him sit down to give us the final approval. Okay, Rick, we need you to answer these questions in the system. So it hears your voice and it's kind of your voice signature. And so in the end, we legally did all of this, but we captured Rick's voice, where it's at today, so that we can now read any of his articles, any of his books, not only in English, but at this point in over 27 other languages. So we've taken, and I'd like to be able to play that. I'd like for the audience to be able to hear this.
Yeah, so why don't we cut to a sample of Rick reading The Final Quest in his own voice in English. This was developed using AI technology.
Yes. Yeah, and let me just set this up. What they're about to hear is not Rick reading it. We have taken his voice, and we're able to use that, and we have taken a PDF with his writings in it. And so what they're going to hear is his AI voice reading from his own book. Wow. And it's incredible.
The evil army, I saw a demonic army so large that it stretched as far as I could see. It was separated into divisions, with each carrying a different banner. The foremost and most powerful divisions were pride, self-righteousness, respectability, selfish ambition, and unrighteous judgment. But the largest of all was jealousy.
Let's also hear in another language like Russian, because this has amazing implications for getting the gospel out and getting prophetic messages out in every language in the world.
Absolutely. The funny thing, and I think we can play this excerpt as well, we have Rick's voice not only in Russian, Slovakian, but we played around one of the first languages that we heard him speaking in with AI is Japanese. And so it's really interesting to hear Rick talking in Japanese, speaking in Japanese. And it sounds like him. Even he heard it. He's like, I approve of this message,
Yeah, so let's hear those samples now.
Демоническая армия была настолько велика, что простиралась до самого горизонта. Она была разделена на отряды, каждый из которых нес свое знамя. Авангард маршировал под знаменами гордыни, самодовольства, уважения, эгоистичных амбиций, несправедливого суда и ревности. 悪魔の軍勢は地平線まで届くほど巨大で分隊に分かれ、それぞれが独自の旗印を掲げていた。戦闘集団は傲慢、 独善尊敬、利己的な野心、不当な判断、嫉妬の旗印を掲げて行進した。
So we talked about the creative potential of artificial narrow intelligence, which is what we're talking about with voice and graphics. And then we get into these other two levels. And I want to talk about both and then talk about some of the concerns, which I think as a prophetic watchman, I have some deep concerns about, especially level 3 here.
Absolutely.
So, level 1, these are these narrow applications where there's clear defined borders, where we're using AI as a tool, but the user is in control 100%. The second level is called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, and this is the point at which AI can perform any intellectual task that a human being can. That's a very high bar. I'm not even sure we've reached that level yet. So this is where AI is capable of understanding, learning, and applying its knowledge across a wide range of domains, similar or on par with human intelligence. And so here, I think, one of the main concerns is, well, let's talk about benefits and concerns together, right? So when we talk about the impact on the economy or on the job market, the plus is there's a lot of jobs that require problem solving and decision making that it would be more productive if those jobs were performed by AI. And so our productivity and our gross domestic product would go up. People would get richer, but then many traditional jobs, generally in the middle management field, would be lost, right? And then we have the third level, which is artificial superintelligence. So this is where it gets really sketchy.
Where we both have red flags.
Right. So this is a theoretical concept. This is AI with intelligence that surpasses human capabilities in every way. And it would be able to reason, learn, and make decisions far beyond human comprehension. Now, there are some who say, well, if we develop level 3 artificial superintelligence, maybe we can analyze all the data and find a cure for cancer. Or maybe we can bring back extinct species by using AI to look at fossils and genomes and figure all this out for us. And this is where we get into some of the more problematic issues. So I want to lay out some of the problems, then we can kind of discuss it. One is a combination of AI with advanced robotics. And so you have things like the Boston Dynamics, terrifying looking robots that are on 4 legs and they can go like 80 miles an hour. And so you think about the future in a world in which wars happen, where AI is being mixed with advanced robotics. You could have terror bots. You could have assassination robots that can do horrifying things. And even if we want to talk about the New Jersey drone sightings in the end of last year, beginning of this year, there's a lot of evidence that China already has really advanced robotics when it comes to drones. Mm-hmm. In fact, you can go on the internet right now and look at really advanced drone displays where they have like giant dragons in the sky and it's all perfectly coordinated. Well, what happens if you mix that with a level 2 or even a level 3 AI intelligence?
Agreed.
Does that present a risk to humanity? Or alternatively, is the first nation that develops that kind of technology going to rule the world? Like with, is it Jared Diamond wrote a book, Guns, Germs, and Steel? Oh, yeah. If you're the first one to discover firearms, you're going to take over the world. Is this the next big technology that whoever lays hold of it first is going to dominate? Which brings in another concern, which is the combination of AI with authoritarianism. God is MorningStar universe. God is moving at MorningStar University. We believe the wind of His Spirit is blowing and calling a new generation higher.
This school is for the wild ones, the risk takers, the revivalists, the burning hearts who know there's more.
More prayer, more power, more purpose, more of His voice, and more of His presence.
If you're looking for your tribe, your people, your family, you just found it here at MSU.
Here, you're not just a student, you're part of a family that's chasing after God together.
We're here to help you go deeper in the supernatural, grow in the prophetic, discover your purpose, and be equipped for your calling.
Whether you're called to missions, worship, or the marketplace, we'll help train you, empower you, and send you out with fire and direction.
And if you hear the call to join us, we will be here to help you discover your purpose, give you the training you need, and support you all along the way.
This isn't just a school, it's a family and it's a movement.
Applications are open, the wind is blowing. Will you follow it?
Visit mstaru.com for more information or to apply today. But you know, back in the 1980s and even early 1990s, I recall sitting under teaching on eschatology, the study of the end times. And at that time, people were warning about Mystery Babylon and the mark of the beast being involved with some new technologies. And at that time, barcodes were just coming out.
Right.
And people were scanning the barcodes. And I recall my grandparents being very upset at one point that at the grocery store, instead of using the gun with the stickers for the prices, they were now using barcodes. And they would said, well, I think the number 666 is embedded in every barcode, and this is how the Antichrist is going to track everyone and have global domination.
I remember that, yeah.
And so there was this whole understanding of that. And then as the technology moved forward, people's interpretation of eschatology changed to, well, now they have implants the size of a grain of rice.
Now that's the mark.
And, you know, you can swipe to enter your apartment building, or they have key fobs to go to the gym or whatever it is. So then they said, well, that's the mark. Well, now we're talking about technologies like Neuralink, which Elon Musk is developing, which is a neural network that connects your mind to a computer system. Now, if AI is a tool, and we're dealing with the level 1 AI, and you have Neuralink, well, this can be potentially a really good thing, a cure for people who are blind, people who are deaf, people who might have Parkinson's or MS or
Paralyzed.
Other neurological disorders. It can help them regain strength, and so it can be part of that, the medical version of the ministry of healing, not the supernatural version, right? But then we come back to something we touched on episode 1, which is the issue of control. So if I'm controlling Neuralink, boy, that'd be amazing. You can access all this information. But I don't think I would ever get Neuralink because of my concern it would go the other direction.
Someone controlling you.
Right. So at what point does the technology flip, and instead of me controlling the technology, it's controlling me? Even with social media today, which does involve an implant.
Right.
Although the way people hold this all day, it might as well be one, right?
Right, so true.
But there is a feeling that people have that they're in control as they're scrolling, but actually they're being controlled because the way the content is being offered to them is manipulative and is trying to get into their psyche in some way. And so I guess this is where we get into, beyond the level 1 technology where we have clear borders, when we get into level 2 or even level 3 AI, and we bring in advanced robotics, nuclear technology, our grid, our infrastructure, water, electric being run by AI to be more efficient, but does that open up other risks?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts about these greater risks of AI at these higher levels?
Well, I'm with you, Michael. I share in the concerns, but we talked about technology in a couple of places that I've been in the past. I started in information technology, but now looking back over my career in both business and in ministry, I've re-examined a lot of things that I've been in. And the only reason I'm saying this is to kind of also share my concerns. One of the concerns I had years ago before AI is understanding a invention that we were working on, and all the ramifications, all the details, and we want to build a patent around this invention. We want to protect it. In order to do that, you really have to know everything that you can about it, and you isolate anybody from being able to do anything like it. Well, when information or knowledge is limited, it's very difficult to do that. So they give you a year to really kind of narrow down what this invention is and how it works. And sometimes that's not near enough time to really understand. So that was in biotechnology, went that route. It's interesting you brought up Neuralink, because I have a daughter who was born with a disease, a chromosomal disorder, I should say. And so without going into the story, that was something that I took a look at. I looked at the potential of using Neuralink to help her be able to control her body. She's in a wheelchair today. And the potential's still there. You know, we prayed. We're obviously believers in the supernatural. We believe in the healing ministry of the Lord. But I also believe that He's given us the mandate to take dominion and authority over everything. And sometimes when we're pursuing a breakthrough in technology, whether it's with AI or other technologies or those that are related, we have to realize if we can really lead this, if we can pioneer and press through to get what we're looking for out of this, or what the Lord wants out of it, we're going to create a breakthrough that not only is a one-time miracle. It's not a one-off. It's not one time we laid hands on somebody, this person got healed. But it's one of those where we open the door where everybody can go through. And so I look at technology that way, like, okay, if it's possible, in the meantime, I'm going to be seeking the Lord for healing and for those things. But when it comes to biotechnology, I see that as another world of good or evil. It can be both, and it's been used. Look at vaccines. There are vaccines that have been good, and there are also vaccines that have been used to put only God knows what into our bodies and what it can do. So I think there's always those red flags of any technology. But again, biotechnology, solar technology. I was in this field for the years before I came into MorningStar. Backing up now and looking at those things through the lens of what AI can offer. I've gone back through patents that we filed in the past. I've gone back to those that we weren't able to file. I've looked at solar technology, and I like to get into the details to understand the way things work. AI has helped me to go back and look at those places where we were limited before, and we can see beyond it. And obviously someone's already probably been there before we have, using AI to explore these things. But I'm just saying, it opens a door for us to be able to explore technology on a whole nother level, to help human beings, to bring healing, to fix DNA. There are problems with DNA. And sometimes when we pray for people, they don't get healing. What do? Do you just leave it there, or do you look to see if there might be a potential solution in the world of technology?
Well, as we're talking about DNA and implants, I want to touch on some other topics, because, you know, when Jesus said that the last days in Matthew 24, one of the signs would be, it would be as it was in the days of Noah. The simplest way to interpret that is a lot of sin and a lot of wickedness.
Right.
And we can say that's already been fulfilled, right? A more provocative way to interpret that is going back to Genesis chapter 6, this idea of the Nephilim, this idea of really transhuman entities that are half fallen angel, half human, and that when it says that Noah alone was blameless, you know, that isn't referring to sinlessness. It's saying it was actually God's love to send the flood, because He's saving the human race from utter corruption where there's no pure human race left to save. And so I think that many believers today are looking at some of the trends with UAPs, which we used to call UFOs, and these other worldly, which I believe they're really demonic entities that we're being, I think, reintroduced to the powers of darkness in a more blatant way. And even if you look at trends like transgenderism, what is transgenderism? Just like the gay movement paved the way for transgenderism, is transgenderism paving the way for transhumanism. And what do we call a human being that now, with AI technology, that dangerous third-level AI technology, is having their DNA edited and is having implants that give them information that starts to control the way they think and the way their emotions operate?
Agreed.
Do we reach a point at which we're in an extreme danger zone, and is there an area where Christians need to say this far and no more? And I think it's a complicated issue, and I think we mentioned in our Ark of the Covenant episode, which ran last week, with the search of the Ark of the Covenant, our goal right now is to collect information. We don't have to draw a conclusion until we get enough evidence.
Right.
And I think even with AI, I look at each instance, okay? Like if I'm working as a graphic designer and this tool helps me make a better book cover that matches the vision God gave me, that's a great AI.
Absolutely.
I'm going to use it as a tool. If you're telling me you want to give me an implant that will fix my emotional problems, I'm going to say no.
Exactly.
Because I'm made in the image of God and I want to keep it that way.
You and me both.
And so I think there's complex issues here. Even with implants, well, there's a lot of medical implants that are really helpful. People get knee replacements.
Mm-hmm.
People get bolts when they get in a car accident and get a shoulder replaced or something. Pacemakers keep people alive longer, you know? And so I don't think all implants are bad. I think it comes back to that key issue we highlighted in episode 1, dominion.
Absolutely.
Who's got the control?
Yep.
What was the issue prior to the flood? The enemy was seeking dominion over the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's still what's happening. The enemy is looking to corrupt and destroy. Yep. What did Jesus say? He wants to kill, steal, and destroy in John 10. Jesus came that we might have life and have it to the full. It's not that the technology is good or bad. I think there's a battle over, is the kingdom of light going to control this technology, or is the kingdom of darkness going to get it?
And you know, if you look at it, Michael, it's clear that there will be a struggle all the way to the end. There will be a battle. Here's one thing that I always think about with whether it's technology or weapons, anything in the domain of what we consider dangerous or potentially dangerous, is if I lay a weapon on the table and I turn my back and you take the weapon, then you've got power over me. And if there are 2 weapons on the table and I take one, then it puts you in check. I think sometimes we, as Christians, sometimes we're confused at new ideas and new things that are presented. And so we take what seems to be the kinder way, the nicer way out, and I'm going to avoid rather than embrace. Now, I can embrace a weapon. That doesn't mean I'm going to use it. But if I understand it better than my enemy, I'll know if I should use it or when I should use it. And so I think with technology, especially with AI, we should be the leaders. You know, if you look at Daniel, Daniel's life's very questionable. We tell all the great stuff, you know, and when I mean questionable, I don't mean that his commitment to God was questionable. Daniel was a prophet, but he was brought into a corrupt kingdom. He's brought into Babylon. And I love reading those stories. I love both Daniel and Joseph, because they're prophetic people that were brought into the world to be voices, to be used by God. But you know that Daniel was made the boss. He was made the guy that was over all the Chaldeans, the sorcerers, and the magicians. Not just a Christian group, as we try to, it wasn't just this nice Israeli group, you know, that were there. It wasn't just...
Right, they weren't doing good stuff,
right?
In other words.
Exactly. Yeah. And yet God brought him in there. Now, what if Daniel were to refuse this call? I'm not going to step in. I'm not going to be a part of this. There would have been a lack of dominion, authority, and control in an area where salt needed to be applied. We can't have this being spread. And so there must have been the Lord's touch in all of this. I'm going to put someone in here that not only controls this area, but salts it. And perhaps along the way, he became an example to them of what it meant to follow the true and living God. And to me, that's where we're at, is We can either turn our backs on the weapon that's there or the intelligence that's there. We can also succumb to it. We can, there's nothing I can do about this, and embrace it wholeheartedly. Tell me what to do and become one of the slaves, become one of the sheep. But there's also a smart way to approach technology or any new thing is, let's approach with caution. Let's think for ourselves. Let's research. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's pray about it. Let's feel things out as we go. And a yes today may not be a yes for tomorrow when you're 5 steps ahead. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, it does. And I just want to land this episode on one final thought about dominion, kind of rooted in everything you just articulated regarding Daniel's life, which is, I think, where all this is going. Advanced robotics, AI, UAP, non-human intelligence. I think there is a deception down the road that is really driven by the same powers of darkness and fallen angels that corrupted the earth prior to the flood. And Jesus said, even the elect would be deceived if it's possible.
Agreed.
And so I think the most important way to prepare for that is build such an intimate walk with Christ now that you become like one of those ones Daniel prophesied about for our times, that they who know their God will be mighty and do exploits. Amen. I believe there's a generation coming that will have such power and authority because of their
Amen.
walk with God in the Spirit. Here comes the AI drone army.
Speak the word.
I rebuke you in Jesus'
Agreed.
name. Right, they hit a wall of fire
I
or
agree.
whatever it is. I think knowing God, I always say our greatest prep item, when we're talking about prepping for our hard times, is learn to abide in the Lord.
I agree.
I think that's where we begin. And from there, move on to wisdom and revelation
Absolutely.
and getting His perspective on things.
100%.
Not a human perspective, the Father's perspective.
Absolutely.
And so I look forward to diving deeper into this next time with you. And I want to thank you so much for joining us this week on the Watchman's Journal.